Welcome everybody, my name is Missing the Moon and you're watching Devlog 31 for the game Saikyo, which is a fast-paced 2D action roguelike set in futuristic Neo Japan. Between update 0.13 and this update 0.14, more than half a year has passed, but we had multiple updates in between, so you might already know some of the things that we worked on. In this update, our focus was the art of the game, mainly the animations and the overall design of the art. The first thing we did was create our own workflow because Unity's default one is so slow. There's so much manual work you have to do, tons of room for mistake. We didn't want that. There's a Unity editor extension for A-Sprite files. In A-Sprite you animate, you save the A-Sprite file, put it into Unity, and the extension just reads out of it, creates everything, sprite sheet, animation clips, animator, everything. It's beautiful, it saves time, it didn't work for us since we use Adobe Animate, so I had to copy the homework real quick, rewrite some stuff, go through tons of errors, have the iterations going until we finally figured it out, and now our workflow is done. And we used it extensively on this project. Next project, I want to fix some stuff, make it a little bit faster, a little bit better, but for this project, it was perfect. Next up is animations. We did a lot of them, we knew that, so we created a super simple design. Most things are just geometric shapes, some simple weapon, no hands, no arms, simple. And we just rotate them, move them, squash and stretch them. We get away with that really well because the design is so simple, and we do that in Adobe Animate so the workflow is super easy. We keep animation production times short. We focused on making the animations good instead of complex, readable instead of difficult to make. Because there is so much going on screen at the same time, we needed to keep the design simple. Otherwise, you won't tell what enemy is doing what and what enemy it is in the first place. That's also the reason why we don't have idle animations, because they always took away too much from the action. So when something is moving or bright, it's either really important to focus on it or it is attacking and it's dangerous. Let's move on to the design. Making all these enemies was really difficult. They had to be designed in a way that makes them easy to distinguish from each other and yet simple. We made everything that is safe round. For instance, the gold coins, the shield, the loot cockroach, and you're all round. In contrast to that, everything dangerous is not round. So enemies that attack in close combat, squares and green. Ranged enemies are pentagons and magenta. The wolf and big wolf are triangles and blue. And all these enemies are easy to distinguish from each other. Even if they have the same shape, they still are different in size and their weapons. So the swordsman and the knight have the same shape and color. They're both green squares, but the knight is way bigger, so you will never mistake the knight for the swordsman. At one point we got to remaking the explosion animation and realized that it just doesn't fit the style of the game anymore. No matter how I would redo it, it would not fit. So we made it into a particle effect, which it should have been in the first place actually. So we decided to always make these more complex things particle effects and to keep simple things animations. While this update was mainly about animations, we also created some particle effects and worked over some old ones. For instance, the dust particle effect is there to make the background more interesting, but it's really boring. So Liz at one point had the idea to make it into red square shaped fireflies. They glow a bit, move a little bit, and they look really pretty. For the boss fight, we made a lot of new particle effects. We're gonna work over them though because they're not that great yet. But they're a really good start, but to continue with them, to remake them, to make new ones, we bought a new asset called All-in-One VFX, which is a great asset which you should check out because it makes it so easy to work over already existing effects or just creating new ones from scratch. Our old workflow for the glow just sucked, like it was very bad. So every time we changed the sprite sheet because we changed an animation, the mission map would also have to change, which means we would have to do so much extra work for no reason, because now I realize we can just make the mission map just all bright other than the parts that should always be dark, and then boom, we're done. If we go into code and say glow amount, change that every time like they attack glow, every time they don't attack don't glow, and then we can lerp in between it to make it smoothed out. It's so simple, but it does take some time, so I only did it for the player and the boss because we're probably gonna change some of the animations or add some, so it will be worth for them. For the other enemies, their sprite sheets will probably never change anymore, so it's perfect. So what's coming up next? Well, this update already did work a little bit on the balance because we really need to take some time for it, but I won't dedicate a whole update for it. I will just sprinkle it in here and there. So this update, I looked over the health stats of everything, and some things did make sense, some things didn't. For instance, Dragon Strike gives you tons of mobility, did the same damage that Tatsumaki does, and Tatsumaki doesn't give you a lot of mobility. So change that and some other things that just didn't make sense. But the big problem is the items and the head collection. Both give you percentage buffs which stack up to so much that you're just insanely strong and broken at one point, which doesn't make sense. Like, you should be broken, but not because your health is all of a sudden 50 times the amount it was at the start. Okay, it's not that bad, but you know, you get the idea. In the next update, we will focus more on the art of the hub world, especially all the static stuff that we haven't worked on in this one, because this one was all about the animated stuff. So the hub world will also get a new look, more clear level design because I don't like it, and also some storytelling which we might add in the next update already, maybe in a future one. So that's all for this update. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.